thank you for staying. Is Issues and Answers on the Broadcasting Service. I'm Josephine Eyumihe. This morning we'll be looking at flooding and its effects on farm produce and even the economy. What flooding is doing to us. If you you open to any of the stations right now, the internet, we have issues of flood in almost 33 of the states out of the 36. And yesterday, the president was condoling with families in Bayelsa State. Said about almost 700 persons have lost their lives concerning this flood. This flood issue keeps recurring. But there's one we had in 2012. That one, a lot of persons died. Thousands of persons lost their lives, and properties worth millions of naira was destroyed during that issue. We are in 2022. And we have issues of flood. And before then, we see the meteorological agency warning states that they should be proactive, because I'm wondering, why are people being reactive when you should be proactive? There's a way you can forestall this, as against when it's with us right now, everybody will be running and say, what can we do? Warnings have been coming. Do people just to keep to these warnings? Because they say people should move to higher grounds and leave those areas that can be flooded. So a lot of issues concerning flood. This is what we'll be looking at. And some persons are even complaining right now that the cost of food is growing. We have it before due to COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war. Now flooding is part of it. What are we going to do? This is what we'll be looking at on Issues and Answers. The way out, how can we mitigate what we have right now? Before we continue this conversation this morning, because we have some guests that will be talking to us on this issue. Let's see the issue of flood in one of the states in Bayelsa. PD, help us with that. All right, maybe they're not able to bring the story right now, but in the process of this conversation, we'll bring it. But it's everywhere. Flooding is everywhere. And on this program, we always talk about people should keep the environment clean in order for these flood channels to be open to allow the free access of water. With me in the studio this morning, we have the Director, Relief and Rehabilitation, Edo State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, Dr. Dexmond Agbama. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're still expecting other guests, but for the now, sir, what is your take concerning this flooding issue? I know it's a global issue right now. Most countries are battling with flooding, but we in Nigeria, we've been helped in some areas. God has helped us to avoid natural disaster. But this time we're having issue of flooding. So what is your take on it?
First of all, before we find solution to any problem, you have to identify the cause. Disasters such as flooding is usually either man-made or natural. Like the one we are experiencing very right now across some part of the country, could be described as a natural flood disaster. And in a way, you could also say man-made, maybe due to negligence. You see, some time ago, Nigeria agreed that to curtail the overflow of the river Niger, that the two dams should be constructed to curtail the river, the water. One in Cameroon and one in Nigeria. And that of Cameroon, the Lando Dam, was constructed, but the one that was proposed for Taraba, so in Nigeria, the Damisa Hausa Dam, was never completed. And that is why I said man-made and negligent on one part. So if that dam was completed, I'm sure it would curtail a lot of water coming from the Lando Dam. Having said that, it's
easy to lose your way, especially if
naturally, and the people so affected, they live close to the river bank because of their activities, farming activities, fishing activities, and all that. They derive their source of livelihood from farming across the river banks and fishing in the river. So some of them they live there. However, when early this year, sometime in April, the Nigeria Meteorological Agency and the National Hydrological Agency, they advised that there will be heavy flooding due to heavy downpour and all that, climate change and the rest, and advised that people should relocate to safer ground before the disaster occurs. That's what we call mitigation. Mitigation. The information was passed on time and people were advised on time. But like I said, negligence. The people didn't hit to that advice. They didn't relocate. And here we are. The flood is ravaging everywhere.
All right, during the conversation, we saw the flooding story. Let's go to the story now. Let's hear what's going on right now in some of the states.
Ravaged environment and had to wade through the water to leave their homes.
And they see the river, oh, dry ground don't turn to River Niger. Would they inside know where to go?
Since 2012, 2018, 2019, 2020, we experienced this thing. No any government help.
Animals were also made to test the ability to get through the water safely. Traveling by boats to their flooded homes is now their new realities as the water level keeps rising daily as they appealed for help from the state government.
For the past 1 week, it's increasing by the day. It's coming up by the day. But look at what is happening here. Look at the currents. Nobody can stay around here. Look at what is happening. You can see everywhere. So we're just begging for government intervention.
Benedict Okate, EBS News. Devastating floods are also wreaking havoc in parts of Delta State after the River Niger end of Awan Ila Aziz overflowed its bank and emptied into the road. At Ila community, vehicles drive through the flooded water, but the major means of transportation is now canoes lined up to take people to their various destinations. Articulated vehicles find it easier to pull through. But there are those who will be away from their homes for a while, as many houses are submerged. Even hotels are not spared. The open market situated along the Asaba-Onitsha highway is not spared, as flood forced traders to use the shoulders of the highway as their makeshift trading points.
The flood has made me now, even my children are not going to school now. The road to the material school at Chubolo, the road linked to Chubolo is covered with water. So the material are not going to, it's the only one that are going to Asaba. I don't want to go now.
Benedict Okate, EBS News.
All right, thank you. You just saw that the issue of flooding in some of the states. We saw Delta State, we saw Bayelsa State. There we even have cases in Edo, and they said 33 states out of the 36, including the FCT. The issue of flooding is like a nightmare to everybody. But we're looking at it and its effect on farm produce, because a lot of things are going on in the society. How can we ravage some situations? We have, just joining us on the studio, we have Malam Alasai Kelua. He's a retired permanent secretary, once in environment and also in transport, and he spent most of his better years in the agricultural sector. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let me go straight to you. Talking about flooding, let's see its effects on our soil. Does it have any effect at all? Or it helps to build the soil?
Well, it has both positive and negative impact on the soil, depending on the way you look at it and the way you prepare for it. First and foremost, as flood and erosion, a lot of the topsoil are washed away in some area. Then those areas from which the topsoil have been washed away obviously cannot support very, very productive crop growth. But at the same time, nature is very kind. The topsoil is washed and deposited somewhere as alluvial soil. And those alluvial soil, like what you have in Peru and other countries, very, very rich. The difference in this country is that we've not been able to bifurcate, to differentiate between these two. That yes, as flood is going on, the alluvial soil is being washed somewhere in some plains or floodplain. For example, the Niger floodplain in Agenebode, Onitsha, in the dry season. This is where you have these yams, these big yams that are being produced. That's because a lot of organic materials have been deposited. The human feces, cattle feces, dead animals, and so forth and so on. They have been deposited. So you now have what we call alluvial soil, also called floodplains. Those floodplains, you can target them. Because the flooding is not going to be forever. So they are targeted and deliberately focused on some crops. All those big yams that you have, early crops that you have from Onitsha, around Lokoja, they are from those alluvial estates. Then the areas that have been devastated by the flood, again, they can also be mitigated. The mitigation there is that you deliberately construct bonds, what you call bonds. That is what we call bonds or kotor. So when you have that kotor, as the flood is coming, there's an embankment that stops it. It stops it, it will wait there for some time. It will deposit some of its material before it goes across the kotor. So the velocity of the flood is reduced, and therefore the impact and the devastation are reduced. You see, flooding takes place everywhere in the world. Flooding takes place everywhere in the world. The difference here is that we do not prepare for it. We don't prepare for it. After all, whether you like it or not, early in the year, NIMET predicted that the rain this year was going to be very, very heavy.
Yes.
Very heavy. In fact, they predicted that at least 28 states in the Federation was going to suffer from devastation of
28.
Yeah, that's what they predicted.
Yes.
They predicted 28. And we see what is happening is not too different from their prediction. But the only thing is that, you see, we are largely from a very backward society, in the sense that we don't believe in science. We don't believe in technology. We believe in superstition, totemism, Buddhism. Oh, it don't go happen when I lie, and God say, that's what God said it could be. Now, so this and that, you go, no, don't worry. I just give you a small story. In 1990, when I was in Oklahoma State University, there was a prediction that by 2 o'clock, there was going to be very, very heavy rain. That anybody going out, you should either wait, don't go out, or you hold an umbrella, or wear your raincoat. As a typical African man, I was supposed to travel back to Nigeria the second day. I said, no, this is not going to work. I went to supermarket. In fact, that was my closest to death in my life. Because the rain was so heavy, it was so cold, the breeze was so much, and so forth and so on. And, there was nobody showing any sympathy. They just thought I was a fool. If I said it, they're like, man, you're a fool. You didn't get the prediction. Even I ran to go and hide in the embankment of one man. The man from upside there, he pointed a gun at me and said, look, my friend, get out of that place. You have a gun. In fact, God was suspicious. So, when there's prediction, warning, you react to it. All I dared to do was to go with my umbrella or go with my raincoat if I was so much desperate to go out. They predicted the number of hours, the number of minutes that the rain would take place. But I didn't believe. I just entered the rain and I suffered. My wrists were cracking. I was almost dying of cold.
Wow. All right, and thank you for that. He just explained some of the effects of flooding on our soil. And I'm surprised that we have the positive aspect. I just thought it's always negative.
No.
But you just made us know that there's some positivity about flood. Dr. Agbama, most of the times, you said something about the dam not being completed. And sometimes the dam overflow and we have issues. But some of us, we are not close to some dams here. And we still have this flooding. So what are the other causes that could lead to this flooding we are seeing?
Apart from this major flooding we are seeing across the close to the river banks in the coastal areas, the one we have in cities like Benin City is purely man-made. Okay. Because people nowadays build on waterways like natural moats. You see people, when they procure land, the moat that is close to them, they convert it by using heavy-duty machines to level the sand, and they build on it. The nature provides that gully naturally for control of what? Flood. You also see people, after their domestic and commercial activities, they empty their waste in already constructed drains. And when rain falls, the water carry the debris and deposit it somewhere, causing flooding in that area. So basically, in cities like Benin City, that is some of the causes of flooding that we are trying to we are experiencing here. That is why we in Seman, we frown seriously at such practice, and in our own way, we've been involved in sensitization and education of the people to know that such thing is inimical, not just to the people, but to the environment too. Because if your environment is endangered, the people there too will also be endangered, because flooding comes with various hazards, so to speak, as well as health problems. Because when you have flooding, the tendency that there will be outbreak of epidemic like cholera, dysentery, and all the water associated disease will be there. So when your environment is destroyed, your source of livelihood will be affected. Your social life will be affected. At times I watch on television when people cry to government to say, God is about to deprive them of, displace them from their home. But when the gully was forming, the people never paid attention to it. Yeah. When people will empty their debris, corn shafts and other things into the drain, the people never bother to say, no, what you are doing is wrong. But once it turns to a big gully, they start crying out to government.
Calling on government. So. All right, thank you so much for that. Apart from the other issues, so we being irresponsible sometimes contribute to this flooding we're having. Malami Kelowa, there's this prediction also that as a result of this flooding, that food will be very, very scarce, of the prices of food item will likely skyrocket above most of our means. Is it true as a farmer?
Well, first and foremost, the flooding will only aggravate the situation.
Okay.
Because already, even before now, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations had predicted that there was going to be hunger. So many households may not be able to meet up with their food security. And the household food security is certainly be threatened. Well, this is as a result of several factors. Before the flooding, I will come to the flooding later, is that first and foremost, you find that there is so much insecurity all over the place. Farmers cannot really do much of the farming. And also, unfortunately, I was personally involved in research that tried to determine the media age of Nigeria farmers. The media age of Nigeria farmer is 65 years old. That's on the average. Every farmer is 65 years or above. What can a 65-year-old man or woman really do? There are not enough incentive or opportunities to really attract the younger people into farming. Whatever you are seeing, well, it's okay. There are most of them are sloganeering and propaganda. The hard truth is that I was involved in research that put the media age of our farmer at 65. So at that level, at that age, people can no longer really accept technology. And that is why you find that the amount of science and technology in our farm is very low.
In Nigeria.
That's why you also find that the productivity of the average farmer is very low. And in the world now, you have what we call good agricultural practice gap. Science is the same. The world now, people are talking about what we call intensification, getting more yield per unit of land.
Yeah.
That is, if I have 1 acre, I want to find out why that worker should continuously or increasingly give me more yield.
Leveraging on technology, yeah.
Exactly. That's where technology comes in. That's why you find that, for example, maize, Nigeria, we are still talking about 1.5 metric tons per hectare. Farmers will be beating their chest. Whereas we can have as much as 5 to 7
metric tons. From
cassava,
that hectare.
Yeah, from that same hectare. In cassava, the margin or national average is not more than 12 metric tons per hectare. Whether the possibility to have as much as 50 metric tons per hectare is there. So all that we are talking about is that it's a specification. Somebody, instead of somebody will go and clear 10 hectares. You go and clear 10 hectares, for example, you get 12, that is 120 metric ton. Somebody who just has 3 hectares will get more yield than yourself. So what are we talking about? So that is part of it. Then again, we go to even the little that is being produced is not well preserved and marketed. You have pockets of surpluses and pockets of scarcity. Like as I speak to you, for example, now I got a call from a farmer today who told me that he has so much maize, he doesn't know what to do. Nobody is buying.
Maize,
dried maize. So I just told him, I said, well, my advice to you is dry the maize. I will give you some chemicals free of charge to store the maize so that they can stay long. That very soon the price can. So information, market information. Whereas in some other area, market information is there. This is up here announced in radio. You can say so here. You can say so. So that market information is actually to be coordinated by government. So that is there. So this flooding has come, and the flooding has come, and it has done 3 things. One, it has destroyed a lot of food that was already produced. The food that was already harvested has been destroyed. Then 3, some farms some farms have been submerged. The food that have not even reached the stage of maturity have been submerged. You know that once water submerges a crop, it will die because there be scarcity of oxygen that will just die. Then the third and probably more important is dislocation. The farmers, they say, have been dislocated.
They're no longer going to farms.
They have been dislocated. Some people have had their houses dislocated. Yeah. They're not even talking about where you don't even have where to stay. So these are the 3 problems that have been unleashed as a result of the flood. So this one added to what we had before. You don't need any social to tell you that the issue of food scarcity. But there are remediation.
Okay, before you get to that part, you've traveled in the course of your work. You've gone to various cities, countries, I mean, and most of these countries, they have these issues of flooding.
Yes.
And it's not new to them.
No.
So how do they manage it and still have enough to give to their people?
Thank you very much. That is why I was telling you that when you follow, if it's all science, you cannot run away from science and technology. Because this flooding, when climate change has come and a lot of things have changed, but even then, you see, this flooding or climate issue is cyclical or periodical. Sometimes it happens maybe every 10 years at time. What I'm saying, there is a predictable repeatability for this thing to repeat itself. So when you now plan, for example, if I'm aware that, maybe by next year or 2 years' time, there's going to be flooding, then we can plan our agricultural program, differently. For example, we have what we call floating rice. We have floating rice that can float on water.
Okay. You can plant rice on the float?
Yeah, floating. You have floating rice. You don't need too much soil. You just need water, for example. Then secondly, for example, we also have short duration crops. We know when this flood is going to come. We know when it's going to come. It doesn't just happen overnight. You don't know that, okay, flooding is likely going to be between August and October. So all your farming calendar are planned outside that period of flood. We take maximum advantage of them depending on the variety of crops that you are producing. So this is, then two, there are also non-crop agricultural product that you can also intensify in view of what is happening. For example, when you look at all this, some people now have to go into the production of mushroom in their homes, in their bedrooms, which they sell to buy food. So nobody is idle. Government plans all these things very well. Then secondly, because of the prediction, they ensure that a lot of food go into the reserve, what you call strategic grain reserve.
Yeah.
Like for example now, US has food in a strategic grain reserve that will last for the next 20 years.
Do we have the same here in Nigeria?
Yeah, I would say yes or no.
Okay.
Yes, in the sense that we plan for it. If you are going to our chiefs, all those BBT that look like drum, tall, baby, aluminium something,
Silos.
those are silos. So those why we're supposed to be for grain reserve. When you have scarcity, you put everything there. So at the time there is problem, you release. Problem in two ways. For example, if the price go up too much and the ordinary man can no longer afford,
you release it
to the market, it stabilizes the market. Then if there's total hunger too, as flood is now, so you cannot die, you can give food to your people to eat. In fact, at the time, it was meant for grain alone. So we, at a certain national planning level, we now advise government. We should not imitate the Western world alone. Grain is not the only thing we eat. But there, the grain, they can turn into many things. They can turn into semovita. They can turn into many flour through processing. But we don't have that, capacity. We only prepare akamu and eat. So we now say you can add gari. Because if gari is dried to 10% moisture content, it can last for 20 years. It will not spoil. So all these plants were very beautiful. But the greatest problem we have with them is that our technology, they are still import dependent. This is where anything you talk will always fail. Because if any small node spoil, you have to be going to Germany or go to US or go to China to go and get it repaired.
Sorry to cut you. Do we have grains in those silos right now?
Nothing.
There's not, but it's just there.
Yeah, they're there.
Mr. Bama, we have a problem in this country, and all right, that's by the way. Let me come to you. You are the director in Semi-Edo State. How many communities now have been affected in our dear states by flood? How many of these communities?
Well, by the last count, well over 300 communities across the three local government areas: Esan Southeast, Esako Central, and Esako East. So we have over 300 communities.
Over 300 communities.
Yes, affected, and it has devastated their source of livelihood, their farm, their economic activity, their homes. Many have been displaced and all that, but it is gratifying to note that the state government is putting plans in place to provide relief and rehabilitation
for the
flood disaster victims, and the state government has also taken delivery of 5 boats to help in evacuating people moving around the waters. Few days ago, the Honorable Commissioner for Special Duties, that of Fiscal Planning and Environment, led the NEMA and SEMA team to the various community for on-the-spot assessment of the degree of disaster, so that in order to know how to mitigate their sufferings and all that. So plans are on, and in the very few days from now, I'm sure relief materials will be getting to the affected victims in the various local government and communities in Edo State.
More warnings are still coming up, like the one that the humanitarian minister said, the flood, we are still expecting more flooding.
Yes,
so
yes.
What, like I said earlier when I was introducing that, we are being reactive as against being proactive. So what is your agency doing right now to ensure that we don't get to that level when you say, okay, we already have the flood with us? What are you people doing to ensure that these people will not see this flood and they'll be protected, goods, property will be protected, and lives? What are you people doing right now?
Well, it's very difficult to move houses that are built close to the bank.
Yes,
what we are after is to save life first. After saving life, you talk of property that you can save, because you cannot move a house that is already built from one point to the other. But what we are encouraging the people to do is that forget about your activities for now. Move to a safer ground, because there's a IDP camp established somewhere over there, and more are being established to take care of them, whereby their daily needs will be met first of all. So that is it. But we also have observed that some of these inhabitants, they are used to that kind of system. Perennial, it's occurring. Some are even taking advantage of the situation to make business.
When you talk about advantage, what do you mean?
So those set of people now are difficult to, yes. For example, that is where they engage in intense fishing, because the flood, it comes with seafoods, fish and all that, and some believe that once the water is receding, they easily pick this fish. So they don't want to go. They've targeted, they are cashing on it, that as the water is receding, they are picking these fishes. If you tell those people to relocate to safer ground, they will never. So, but there are some that are willing to just go up there, and those ones will be taken care of in the internally displaced camps. So that is what Edo State government, through SEMA, in collaboration with NEMA and other stakeholders, are trying to do, to ensure that those people are taken care of.
Right now, you're telling us that some persons have been relocated to safer grounds, yes, and they have relief materials, or we're expecting relief materials.
The relief material is being packaged.
And okay, the matter is a national matter, so even the federal government, we are expecting them to do more, to send relief materials.
It's a collaboration between NEMA, which is a federal agency, SEMA, which is a state agency, and other stakeholders, individuals, NGOs. So they are all involved in providing this relief and rehabilitation for the affected victims.
Malam Ikeluwa, you're a farmer. Most of these farmers now, they have issues. Some of their lands have been submerged. So what will you advise the government to do to most of them that they are, even the harvested, the stored product has been destroyed? What do you advise the government to do for these persons, these farmers that are going through these hard times?
Well, I think, you see, let us start from the structural angle. See, this is why the country has so many problems. Agriculture is supposed to be the total prerogative of state government. But you see, in Nigeria, federal government dabbles into agriculture without knowing. If, for example, the resources devoted to Federal Ministry of Agriculture, if 1/10 of that is given to the state, many of these problems will not arise. Because, I'm sorry that I constantly refer to outside the country. In the US, for example, there are times farmers are paid. Say, this year don't produce at all. You're supposed to, they have statistics. Okay, every year I used to produce 10 tons of maize. Government will sit down and say the price of maize will be too low if every farmer produces. So we don't want more than 10% of farmers to produce maize this year. All the other farmers come and take your money that you have sold from maize. That is the extent to which agriculture is planned.
Are you serious about that?
I'm telling you, I'm telling you. I did my postgraduate this thing. So this is it's a statement of fact. It's all part of planning to stabilize the market and to motivate farmers. I would say that one. The government is depending on resources available. You can give the farmer some soft loan for them to at least feed themselves before that. And I tell you, there's a story that I'm very fond of telling. Survivor first, before any other thing. We were taking the president of the World Bank around Edo State, 1989. When we got to Ejebuma, we met a farmer roasting a seed yam. The seed yam we used to plant, yes, he was roasting it and eating. Dr. Hussein, Israel Hussein, who was the president of the World Bank at that time, was laughing. He said, how can a man be so foolish? And he's used a seed yam that he used to plant.
He's
eating there. So the farmer was smoking his pap. I said, oh, you don't know, so you both not get sense at all. So you both not get sense. So we were all laughing, the people were laughing. So the president asked me, what is he saying? I told her, if I tell you what he said, you'll be angry. So no, tell me. I said, he believed that you are foolish. Say, how? That's the farmer. The farmer said, he's not a fool. He knows that seed yam will be used to plant. But if it does not survive till next year, who is talking about farming?
Wow.
So if it does not, the farmer does not survive till next year, who is talking about
Who will
farming?
plant the yam?
Who will plant the yam? So if you get to World Bank, there's a policy called Survivor First. So they now formulated a policy of try to give some relief to the farmer each time there is a disaster.
Okay.
For him to cushion the effect of the disaster, so that it can now be more ready to produce food. So government can do something similar. That is the truth.
Collected, then plans will be made to assist them. State government will do that, the federal government will do that. So the process of collecting the statistics is on through the local emergency management committee. That is, they are the local level, because they are the closest to these people affected. So like retired PS said, you must get the statistics right, otherwise people who doesn't have reasons to be in the list, they'll benefit because of more. Benefit. So we want to make sure that the actual farmers that were affected by the flood, they are captured. Yes, then certainly the state and federal government will assist them to get back on their
and it should be a speedy one.
Yes,
not taking years. All right, let me talk to Dr. Agbama. Let's look about sensitization and awareness.
Okay.
What is SEMA doing? Because sometimes the information will just come on television, radio. But if you go to some communities, they don't have access to what we do have here in the urban area. So what are you people doing to sensitize these people? When I talk about sensitization, how to ensure that their waterways are not blocked and other areas that can be protected, so that this effect of flooding will be reduced.
Yeah. Thank you so much. For this year alone, we've had up to 3 stakeholders meeting, where we invite, like I said, the LEMCs from the local government. They will come. We sensitize them for them to take back to their local environment. That is one. Then we also engage in other forms of sensitization, like radio and television messages. Recently, during the outbreak of this flooding, we produced a jingle to sensitize the people on the need not to block the waterway, not to block the drainage, and all that, on the need for them to relocate to safer ground. These are information that the people need to overcome the incessant flooding. We also organize in-house stakeholder workshop. Recently, I think 13th of October, was a world disaster. So we did our sensitization throughout the state by inviting the various local government LMC to be part of it. So, and I'm sure it was also aired in the media. So that is, we have a department that is responsible for what? Sensitization.
And they use the various languages to tell these people.
We produce flyers, we produce banners and all that. And we are even at the verge of producing billboards to be erected at strategic positions, especially where we are not supposed to dump refuse, to sensitize the people that when you dump refuse here, you are not only damaging the environment, you are not only blocking the water, you are also endangering yourself. And that once such person is caught, sanctions will follow. So these are ways we try to inform, educate, and enlighten the people on the dangers of indiscriminate dumping of refuse, building across waterways, and all that. So SEMAN is involved in sensitizing the people. We don't wait for disaster to happen. That's where I talk about mitigation.
All right.
And what? Preparation.
Okay.
So that's the key word in SEMAN.
I'm looking forward to hearing most of these jingles, these sensitization jingles on various in different languages, so that the people can hear. Before we go, sir, I want you to advise our farmers, general advice concerning this flood. What do you have to tell the people? Because most people are in a very depressed mood right now. So your advice to them?
Well, my advice to them is that there's still a lot that can be done between now and even December. There's no doubt that in the next 2 weeks, the flooding will have receded.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. So what they should look at is the remaining part of the year. What can they do? What can they do? They should try as much as possible to plant short duration crops.
Short duration crops.
With very short gestation period.
All right.
For example, when the flood recedes, the moisture content of the soil will still be very high.
So they can plant.
If you plant short duration base,
yes,
take 70 days to mature.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you so much. We don't have so much time, but the bottom line is this, that for the farmers, plant short duration crops so that you can still make your harvest for that. And for Edo people, let's keep our environment clean. Stop dumping refuse indiscriminately. You see what the flood is doing all over the country right now. We don't want to have such situation in our country. We've been looking at flooding and its effects on farm produce, and we have the Director Relief and Rehabilitation, Edo State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, Dr. Dexmond Agbama. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
It's my pleasure being here.
And we have a retired permanent secretary. He was in the Ministry of Environment, Agriculture, Transportation. He is Malan Alasa Ekelowa.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts this morning. And a big thanks to my producer, Godwin Enobakali. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Josephine Eyimihe. Do have a blessed day ahead.